The West Virginia Mountaineers have a top guy they want in this coaching search, but what if he doesn't work out? Well, I think there's a number two option that most people aren't talking about, but he's got a big decision to make.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, guys? Good evening. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host on this beautiful Saturday. This is Locked On West Virginia, going to be brought to you by 5 Hour Energy. Guys, head over to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from. If you need one now, well, grab a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. Stock up today and stay energized. So, everybody knows Ben McCollum, who just lost in the NCAA tournament, which is good for us. It will bring clarity. We will know one way or the other, if he's going to be our guy or not, or if he's leaning Iowa, like I suspect. And to be honest, guys, I think it's more like 70-30 towards Iowa from everything I've read, from everything I've been told. And I know a lot of us are really all in on wanting to get McCollum, and I want to be wrong about this. I don't have an inside source on this one. But I just, reading the tea leaves, looking at the Iowa stuff, listening to their insiders talk, they believe they've got a strong chance to get the guy. And unfortunately, it has to do with location for him. He's spoken publicly about disliking moving just to Drake from Northwest Missouri State. And so I don't know that he's going to be keen on doing that again. So I think it's going to play a huge factor. They're going to want to stay in Iowa. If Renbaker is able to pull this off, then he really is the best in the business, guys. I just think that he's going to be a little, up against it on this one, which is why I'm bringing up this subject, because I don't think personally the number 2 spot in this year is as solidified as some people say. I don't think Jared Calhoun is 100% the fallback option like some people do, and I do have a source on that one. So I reached out to some people that I know, Locked On Big Ten, Locked On other places, and a couple other beat writers. See, most of the Locked On guys are actually beat writers. Not very many of them just do YouTube. A lot of them actually are writers in their spare time, like Mike Osti, Mike Casazzo, or even, a lot of those people. So a lot of these guys have a lot of information, and it's good to have those coworkers because I have all their numbers, right? So I can call in and get intel from time to time, or at least a read on a situation. Not always going to be intel, but a lot of these guys have a lot going on in that department, just like I do for West Virginia. So here's the deal. Nikko Medved's an option. He is 100% an option, but he's leaning Minnesota, right? Somebody sent me something from Vernon earlier today over on the Rivals board where he was told that Nikko Medved was leaning towards Minnesota, but the West Virginia is absolutely in the race. And similar situation to McCollum, right? Where it's a Big Ten school, even though you may have a little more NIL, you may have a little better salary. You're playing in a conference that, it's an easier conference, and you're going to get the same amount of bids and enough respect to where if you win enough games, you're going to make it, right? Minnesota is nowhere near the brand that even Iowa is in basketball, much less West Virginia. So at least Iowa's had success lately, right? Some under McCaffrey. I can't remember the last time Minnesota was really good. I think they've had a couple one-off teams that have won 20 games or so, like something like that. But so you start to look at this and start to put things together and think, okay, well, I personally think Nikko Medved could actually be the best fit of all these coaches. There's a couple of things about him that I really like. And when you look at what Medved does well, he's a super balanced coach. And he's doing this at Colorado State, guys. It's not the creme de la creme in that conference, whether it's Mountain West or anywhere else that Colorado State's been. There's a reason that you don't see a ton of Colorado State teams on college football or basketball winning a lot, right? It's not an easy place to recruit to. They haven't been good there in a long time. Hell, I can remember all the way back to, I want to say, the 2000s, early 2000s. Maybe they had some good teams. So, but they have definitely been a university that's not been great for a long. And Nikko Medved has really done a great job there in 7 years there now. So he's really built this program 143 and 84, 3 NCAA tournament appearances, 5 20-win seasons. He had them ranked in the top 15, up number 13 last year at Colorado State. And he has got his defense is ranked 14th in efficiency, offensively 40th. So he really does an elite job. And if you watch them guys, they look very similar to a Bob Huggins defense. Very physical. He gets really long, athletic guys to play defense. I really think he would work at West Virginia. His wife is from the area, obviously having played. I think she played softball in West Virginia somewhere. But she's from our area. And so it's not a huge stretch to think it may be a little easier to pull him over. We could have had him last year. And it's kind of funny to think where we may be had we, because they had some really good transfers they could have brought as well. But timing is everything in this life. And sometimes you just not right, which is my biggest fear for not only the Drake situation, but the Medved situation as well. So looking at both those situations, we may land on one of two other prospects, and a lot of people already know who they are, in Jared Calhoun, who I don't think is a bad coach at all. And then there's that Chester Frazier that not many people are considering. This one's interesting. I think if you can get Chester Frazier and Calhoun both, that's the route you go. If you can't get McCollum, if you're telling me I get to keep Frazier with both Medved and Calhoun, I'm probably going Medved. If you're telling me that I have to choose between Calhoun and Medved, I'm just barely – it's a tough choice. I'll be honest. Here's why. One thing a lot of people don't know about Jared Calhoun is they have the 17th – or was it 14th? I think it's the 17th rated incoming basketball class in the nation. Let's pull up their recruiting class really quick. It's better than ours was. And we had 3 4-star guys coming in. Let's see. All right, so Utah State basketball commits. Who do they have? They have – all right. So, well, that's transfers. We're not looking for transfers. I guess I need to type in 2026. 2026. Yeah, so, so the one thing about him is obviously elite recruiter, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Holy cow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 4-star guys. Holy crap. I haven't looked at this yet. So they've got the nationally ranked 12th player in Cameron Holmes. They've got Jalen Montanati, who was a 95 overall 4-star player. Junior County, who's a 93 overall 4-star player. They've got Anthony Filesi, a 92 overall 4-star player. Isaiah Rogers, a 4-star player at 90. Arifan Dion, another 90. And Lattimore Ford, another 90. All signed. That's a 6'11 center, a 6'6 strong forward, a 6'2 point guard, a 6'5 shooting guard, another 6'4 shooting guard, a small forward at 6'7, and a shooting guard at 6'5. 7 4-star players, and we're freaking out over our 3 4-star player guys. Where are these guys all from? Well, they're from everywhere. They're from Arizona, Oklahoma, Utah, California, Iowa, and Washington. So that's the thing that you kind of worry about there is, can you get any of those guys to follow him to West Virginia? Probably not. I would say probably a couple you might get, but to think all 7 would follow him along. I mean, who knows who else on the staff they're recruited to, right? But Jared Calhoun recruiting his ass off at Utah State. 7. Let me pull this up. This is pretty impressive. I got to be honest. And I hadn't looked at it yet. I just saw this earlier. And was like freaking out over it. So here's the list. So these are the guys. Cameron Holmes, Don't know how to say that guy's last name, obviously. So you got Holmes, you got Jalen Montanati, Junior County, Anthony Pelesi, Isaiah Rogers, Arafon Diane, Lattimore Ford, all 4-star guys. Pretty wild, man. And it says right here, all signed. That's pretty crazy to me. I'm really shocked that they're able to do so well in this era. Which, I mean, look, it's easier to recruit in this era because of the portal. Obviously, that I think that's one thing a lot of high school or a lot of the upper mid majors are realizing. Like, okay, well, we can recruit really good players because there are so many other teams that are focused on the portal, right? So I think you're looking at Calhoun. If you look at it from that perspective, that's pretty dang impressive, the recruiting aspect of it. But there's more to it than that, obviously. But, if he could bring all those guys with him, then I'm not going to say I wouldn't be excited, because I would be. But I still think Medved, just by a hair, I would be happy with either. Let's go to break, though. We'll still talk a little bit of this coaching situation. But Tony Caridi and his comments today on 3 guys that are circulating around, I think these were from the other day, but calling people dumbasses, calling people conspiracy theorists. Let's talk about that next. And this episode of Locked On West Virginia going to be brought to you by none other than our friends over at Nissan. We like Nissan. We talk about them a lot around here because we're all about stats. Numbers never lie. When it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are on an MVP level. With the ability to tow upwards of 8,500 pounds and quite literally can carry the whole team, plus the gear wherever you go, powered by twin-turbo V6 engines, delivering the strength and performance to handle highways, back roads, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or even rolling up to the Coliseum, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and style wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, but you can learn more about that today, guys, at Nissan.com. And we don't want to forget about our friends over at 5 Hour Energy. If you're stuck in daylight savings time, it snuck up on you, you lost another hour of sleep, 5 Hour Energy does have your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun for you. Sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, like a lot of you have been tonight, or squeezing in a round of golf after work, just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5 Hour Energy gives you that quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Don't forget, guys, the basketball madness is a great reason to stay up late and watch all the tournament action, and 5 Hour Energy helps keep me up the next day watching more. So with longer days, I love getting outside for a hike or a run. Tropical Burst can be my go-to for that quick boost when I do those things. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. Hell, you can even build your own 12-pack, 24-pack, and it comes straight to your door in discreet packaging. Need one now? Grab on the go a 5 Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store because they're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized, guys. It's segment 2. Let's crack a do. As my cat knocked something off the table just now, and talk a little bit about Tony Caridi. So I just want to say, I love Tony Caridi. I do. And it's really hard for me to be mad at him. I'm not going to go on a crusade against him necessarily here, but I am going to point out the error of his ways, in my opinion, on some stuff. So I think it may have been Brad over at Voice of Morgantown that posted it was like a clip of 3 guys and some of the stuff they said. But I mean, I listened to the whole episode when it happened, and while I thought it was like a little out of line, I guess hearing the clip, it was like 2 minutes long, where he was kind of ranting about West Virginia fans and their conspiracy, saying that DeVries was, hired at Indiana months beforehand, and maybe in the Bahamas when Mike Woodson decided to retire in February, to step down in February. There is a lot to the whole situation, if you ask me. I mean, I don't think Tony, they're really close to that situation. And I think, being so close to it, maybe you're going to miss details. You're going to be way too biased. So nobody wants to get got. And you were there with them every day. So it would be really hard for me to admit, if I was around somebody every day, that they did something like that. And, they already went out and said, like, he was coaching his ass off every single day to try to win with this team. I do believe that. I have no doubt that he coached hard. It's not like I don't think he took a dive or anything like that, but I do think he was tampering, and I do think that Indiana was in constant contact with him. I believe that now. And Tony even mentioned, he said, look, it's not like that he was hired at Indiana in November. He was like, it's more like Indiana called his agent, and his agent probably passed along that information, right? Yeah, that's what happened for sure, which is exactly why it looks so bad that Tucker got shut down, because it's just kind of odd, right? Like, now that Indiana's watching you. You're probably the guy or a guy that they want to replace the coach that had just stepped down. It's not like they had a coach coaching. They had a coach that said, I'm out of here in February. So it's not too much of a stretch to think like, hey, I can shut my kid down and we can actually play at Indiana next year. I don't think that is a stretch, especially if your agent has already been notified that you're the leading candidate or a leading candidate or whatever, probably the leading candidate. So I don't think it's that big of a stretch. And for Tony to say, I've never met a smart conspiracy theorist, while in general I can see that being true, it was more just another shot at West Virginia fans who have been up in arms over this. I don't think it's a good look for him. I don't think it's a good look for any of those guys, or three guys, and the university talking heads that they are. I watched every single Three Guys episode that's ever been out, ever. I've never missed one since I started watching. Maybe earlier iterations I've missed, but I've been watching for years now. Great information over there, great people over there. There's a lot to love about them, but I don't appreciate these hot takes that he has about fans and thinking, I just personally think it's a no-win situation for him. Like, to have these opinions publicly does nothing good for you. Maybe he doesn't care. He's to that age. I think he's in his 70s, even though he doesn't look it. Late 60s, if not. Where he's kind of older now and probably doesn't really care what people think. Fine. But I just think that, West Virginia fans are hurt, and you coming at us over being hurt, and maybe we are jumping to conclusions a little bit too much, but I don't agree with what he had to say there. And it's just, I'm of the opinion that there's nothing good that can come out of Tony Caridi's mouth negative towards our fans. Like, you're supposed to be the voice of us, right? You've been calling our games for years. Like, many of us don't listen to the broadcast. We listen to the radio with the TV turned down, right? Like, it's how it's been for years for a lot of people. So I was just frustrated by the way that all went with Tony, and unfortunately, he didn't make me feel great about the situation, or definitely hurt, I think, his image for sure. And I mean, look, he's entitled to opinions. I just think calling West Virginia fans dumbasses and conspiracy theorists is not the way to go. You can have an opinion on something, but there's a lot of evidence out there now that says that they were in contact while he was coaching at West Virginia, and that's supposed to be tampering. Am I wrong? You can say it's through the agent, but to pretend like he didn't know about it would just be a lie. It's a loophole, if anything else, right? So I don't know, because it gave him this information ahead of time. He was able to make a decision on his son out of it. I told you guys yesterday it was tendonitis. I've been, I didn't report that when I was told because I was keeping Tucker's well-being and what his family told me in confidence. But literally tendonitis was what was going on with him, which is swelling. It's inflammation of the tendon. Doesn't necessarily need surgery. It just can come from overuse. Or I don't think he let his shoulder heal great after surgery coming back so fast. But you better believe that he could have played again at some point. But there was no need for that to happen because he had the best of both worlds. People perceived anyway, West Virginia was going to get in the tournament. But he had the perfect excuse not to get in the tournament once Tucker was out. And we had already had all those top 10 wins. So, it literally had the perfect setup for him to get this Indiana job and not play Tucker simultaneously. If you can't see that logically, I'm sorry. Let's go to a quick break. On the other side of the break, we'll talk a little bit more about the coaching search. And I'll give you my prediction because I think things are going to move fast now, especially that we've got two guys that are the main candidates wide open to talk to. Sorry about that, guys. I took a drink at the wrong timing there. So something has been brought to my attention. I think that those 7 4-stars that I was looking at over at Utah State, not all of those are signed to Utah State. So I may have just overlooked that in the moment because I'm trying to do all this all at once. They do have a top 15 recruiting class, though. I do know that for sure. Top 17. I think maybe ranked 17th or whatever it is, but it's a really good recruiting class. So, I apologize about that one for sure. If I overlooked a couple of those guys that weren't technically signed, it's kind of hard to study the screen when I'm trying to have to talk to you all at the same time. So that was the first time I had ever looked at it. So, okay. So let's talk coaching searches now, because obviously with the Drake loss, Utah State is out. You got Jared Calhoun and Ben McCollum are both wide open. Obviously, Colorado State still playing, right? I think I told you guys this yesterday. They're playing in, they play, okay, so they're playing in the NIT, I think, or something, or no, they're playing the NCAA tournament. That's what I thought. They play Maryland. That's right. My bad, guys. So here's the thing. I was so upset and disappointed over the West Virginia, the way things happened. I've only watched 2 tournament games for the first time in my life, ever. It's literally hurt me to the point to where I haven't been able to enjoy the NCAA tournament this year because of how West Virginia got done, losing to Breeze the way we did. I want to say it's like 2007 level of disappointment, but it's probably 75% of the way there. Missing the tournament and losing to Breeze simultaneously like that, then the way everything happened, and then the way his family treated me, and it was too much for me. I've been depressed for a couple of days. It's not that serious. Depressed is probably a strong word, but I have not been watching basketball like I should because I lost my interest once West Virginia was out. And it's the first time in my life I haven't been interested in this tournament. But I think I'm going to watch from the Sweet 16 on. I needed a couple of days to get over all that because it was rough on me. I know it was rough on some of you too. I'm really close to all this. This is what I do for a living. It's what I've chosen to do with my life, as a career too. And so I have this vested interest in how things turn out. And look, there's almost 1,000 people in here right now. And I would much rather still have Darren DeVries. Let me rephrase that. Only if he wanted to be here. Sounds like he didn't want to be, right? But like if he wanted to be in if I could reverse it and have him be in West Virginia, and only us miss the tournament, or I would reverse it and screw all the views and screw all the and I make good money during these coaching searches, but I would much rather us succeed than any amount of money, So and that's just flat out the truth. I've said this before. If I was worth $50 million, and I would probably at least give half of that to our NIL situation. I know people think that's crazy, but I would. I'm kind of like Dave Portnoy. I would make sure we would have the number one quarterback. I mean, I would probably want recognition too, but who wouldn't for that much money, right? And this is all stupid hypothetical stuff. Let's get on this coaching stand. I lost track. Here's what I do it all the time. So let's talk more about these coaching candidates a little bit and give my final thoughts. And I'll give you a kind of quick prediction on what I think is going to happen here, because it's a little convoluted, right? You've got Garrett Calhoun. I think we all know it will take the job, but then you've got these other jobs coming open, and there's a couple out there that could be better than West Virginia, i.e. Texas, right? And excuse me, do I think that, Texas is going to pick Calhoun? No, not necessarily. Just making an overarching point that, you wait too long. You wait too long and Calhoun might end up somewhere else, right? So we got to shoot now. And I think the three guys that we need are pretty much ready to roll. I mean, if we don't hear an answer, sometimes no information kind of tells you what you need to know, right? If we don't have a McCollum or a Calhoun in the next, let's say 24 to 48, let's say 24 to 48. I was going to say 36. Let's say 36 hours. It's probably somebody else. I mean, that's just a fact. I think it's going to move fast now. I would very much expect something by Sunday, really. I think through tomorrow some point. Maybe we get to Monday. But, as fast as this can get done, it needs to be done, right? And a lot of that's depending on other people and things to happen. I get that. But if it's not McCollum or Calhoun by this time tomorrow, if by this time tomorrow we don't have an announcement, I'm going to start to think that other people are at play. And there are other people at play. We've seen some guys. So the VCU coach is not, he's done. They got the Ross Hodge, I think is his name, from North Texas. That's a name. You've got the former Alabama assistant. What's his name? Forgive me, guys. I don't have all the names in front of me right now that are on the fringe. Let me get them really quick. I have them on a Google Doc here. Let me pull this up really quick. Some names that I have. Okay. All right. So here are some other names that I have outside of the ones we just talked about. Obviously, Alan Huss, who is he was at Creighton forever. He's been the Big South Conference Coach of the Year. I think it was last year or the year before. I can't remember. He's been to the College Basketball Invitational before. Obviously, a good coach. And I would say that he's done a good job, man. And I think he's a guy that absolutely could be in play. High Point coach, really good. Bryce Drew is the name that you look at. I don't know. I mean, Grand Canyon's been good. I think you give him a look, right? I'll tell you somebody, this guy here is probably, of all the candidates we haven't talked about, this guy really gets me kind of excited. Brian Hodgson at Arkansas State is a guy who is an assistant at Alabama, and he was ranked. I found it during my research. Where is it? Let me look this up really quick. Okay. So yeah. Right there. Brian Hodgson was ranked the number 2 in the nation recruiter in college basketball at one point in time at Alabama under Nate Oates. And you see some of the players they got. Ridiculous, right? So I think that's a guy that anybody that can recruit, because it's all about the Jimmies and the Joes. X's and O's are great. If you've got great players, it'll overcome X's and O's almost every day of the week. So those are other guys I have on my Google Doc here. So look, there are other names out there. I think you could get guys like Hoxton Cheap. You could get the North Texas coach. I think he's on here too somewhere. I had to go down further. Oh yeah, Bucky McMillan. That's another one I had on there. Yeah, so there's a lot of cool ones on here, man. We'll see what happens. I mean, it's not. I don't know if there's a Darren DeVries on this list, guys. I really don't. We'll see. I think there's a shot, especially if you're talking about like maybe McCollum. But outside of him, I don't know if there's a X's and O's guy as good as DeVries in this group, but I think there's better recruiters, and we'll see, especially if we hold on to some of the staff. That's another important part. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens over the next 24 hours. So make sure you're tuned in here, guys. Make sure you're watching Locked On West Virginia. I will be probably 2 times tomorrow live, I would say at least, if not more, depending on some of the updates that I get. So we're going to be watching for updates, seeing what the movement looks like. It could be a Calhoun. It might be tonight. Like, I'm serious. I wouldn't expect Ren to play around here. Absolutely, you're allowed in here, by the way. People that are asking if they're allowed in here because they're Indiana fans, absolutely, you're allowed in here. Guys, make sure you treat them okay. It's not their fault that Darren DeVries left like he did. Yeah, definitely, if somebody's from another school and they come into this chat, all I ask is that you guys treat them cordially as long as they're not crap posting, right? That's all. So, but yeah, so like I said, we lose Darren DeVries. I don't know if there is a coach out there with the acumen that he has. He had great work ethic. Remember, he got here by himself and had to flesh out and build this roster with almost no resources, no backing. I've told you guys multiple times, I was told from literally people on the staff that they were begging for more money to get another big. Imagine what an extra big could have done for those guys this year, man. It could have been special. So didn't happen. I think it played a part in him leaving. And another thing is I was told that they felt like the NIL was exaggerated from when they came. They thought they would have a little more, probably based off some of the hugs classes we had come in that were really good. And so they didn't get what they thought they were going to get, but they were going to get it this upcoming season, right? But that's unfortunately, we didn't get a chance to counteroffer that to Indiana. My biggest wonder is I just wonder if the next guy is going to be in line now that they see, okay, you can turn this thing around fast. Will our donors actually just shell it out for the next guy, or are they going to make him prove it too? I have no clue. I think it's something that I wish I knew the answer to, especially because I think if you give a guy like McCollum, the resources, he's going to crush it. Now he's very picky, and that's going to be a weird thing, but surely he's going to have better athletes than what he's been using. And you saw he stayed with Texas Tech way longer than we did today. So, I mean, I thought they played well against Tech with 4 Division II players that start on the team. Sure, they were a senior-laden team. They had a lot of older guys that have been in championship basketball, but they were outmatched physically, and that showed towards the end of the game. But I always say guys like that do more with less will crush it at West Virginia, just like Bob Huggins could at times. Beeline was good at that. Even Catlett at times was good at that. So I think obviously Ben McCollum is possibly a better coach than DeVries, and I'm not just saying that because he's gone. I really do believe, and I thought this, even last year, whenever we were possibly hiring him, I was trying to project, you don't win 4 national championships at any level unless you're damn good. And then you see he won 30 games at Drake this year, beat an SEC team in Missouri. Like, they deserve to be where they were at. They deserve to be ranked at the end of this year after the tournament. And I think he's got to be the number one guy as long as his picky nature doesn't get in our way. And this is one of the biggest fears with Ben McCollum. If you guys don't know about this, McCollum is well known to be very picky when it comes to recruiting players. I said yesterday, he won't recruit divas. He won't go out and get guys that have that kind of like that. I don't want to say Tavon Austin because Tavon Austin is a great team player. This kind of outwardly, kind of like Rich Rod, like it's all about the team. Everybody sacrifices, no divas, and all that kind of stuff. It's a very old school, kind of hard-nosed approach to things. It's kind of hard to recruit like that. And I don't know how much he actually likes recruiting. It's one of the big knocks on McCollum. He likes to coach, doesn't really like to. I don't know about recruit. I don't know if doesn't like to recruit's the best way to put it, but I don't know how good he is at it either. And that's one of the big worries. But that's what you got staff members for. You hire guys that are good to things you don't do well. So hopefully that would be okay. We would find out quick if he wasn't. Outside of that, I think you got Medved, you got Calhoun, and you got those other guys we talked about. I don't know which one of those guys it could be. If not one of these two, first of all, you've got to talk Medved out of Minnesota and into West Virginia, which normally would be pretty easy, but you're talking Big Ten, right? You're talking rev share era now, where the revenue sharing is going to matter. Our NIL situation's better, sure. But you're talking about a Big Ten that's, you finish over 500 in the Big Ten you're in, it probably feels like you can do that every year. So a lot to monitor over the next 24 to 36 hours. It's going to be interesting. I certainly think that West Virginia's got a shot. We'll know soon. Like I said, it's going to be Iowa or West Virginia, we think, and we'll know within the next 24 hours. Let's pay attention to that. Obviously, Medved, Calhoun, and the other guys. So there's a lot to look at, guys, and a lot to be excited about. I think any candidate we have coming in, I'll find a way to spin him in a good light for you guys, but I'll also give you those details you want to hear that aren't so good, because we don't want to confirmation bias ourselves into failure or to where we're blind, right? To where we're just blind mice cheering for whoever gets the job. Like, we can't accept unacceptable behavior. And, I think there are guys out there that are going to be great for our job. There are some guys that may not be so great. But at the end of the day, they're all going to have a chance to prove it. And I'll be excited to see them try. Guys, I appreciate you for joining. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen, and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Tony Caridi, man, running his mouth. It's okay. We get it. I still love him. I just wish that I wish he wouldn't have said some things he said here the last couple of days, but it is what it is now. I will be here to report tomorrow, obviously, exactly who our coach is or isn't. We'll know about McCollum, and that's going to be interesting to see. So hopefully we get some updates tonight, guys. I will come back on tomorrow. We'll talk about more. Could Medved be in play, though? I think he is. We'll find out later. Have a great evening, guys. Have a great Sunday. My mom's at a Randy Travis concert, so she's probably having the best time out of all of us. And I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.